All right, welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to be doing a scene using my new fire lookout tower. We're going to be doing it on a piece of cloud printed photo paper. You can get these for free for download and printout on my Flickr album called Clouds, okay? Link for all those social media types of sites in the description section of these videos. And here we have a piece of vellum. I think this is going to be a dynamic combination right here between the two of them to make for a quick and easy card. We'll see how it goes. All right, so when we're using vellum, we're going to be mounting it on top of this. So it knocks down the contrast and intensity of whatever you're laying this on top of. Doesn't have to be a photograph of clouds, but that will work perfect for this scenario, I think. You can have a nice sunset too. I think that would be really dynamic too. But, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to create a card with a lot of depth in it, okay? So there's three different surfaces right here. You're saying, well, there's two different pieces of paper right here. You can stamp on this, but you can stamp on the back of this vellum and on the front of it. So like I said, it's a really dynamic type of combination here that makes for some really deep looking spaces in terms of the illusion of depth. All right, so let's try out some lighter value trees in the background. Okay, now this is going to look a little bit weird maybe. We'll see how it goes. Because I'm going to be stamping these trees out in green on here. But remember, I'm doing it with the idea of covering them up. I'm just using some dye-based inks. So if you're going to, go for a kind of replication of this scene, go for, a little bit of a darker green, whatever one you have. If you have, sometimes people don't have as dark a green as this one. This one's a bottle green, like a pine green or like a, Christmas green should do okay. All right. All right, I'm going to stamp these a little bit lower in the composition because these ones are going to be lighter in value, so they're going to look farther back in the distance. So I'm going to stamp them a little bit lower, and then it will have some taller trees in the foreground. Okay. Now, dye-based inks work really well on photo paper. Photo papers are designed to dry quickly and for use with your home inkjet printers that have water-based inks in them, okay? On this type of paper right here, the only thing that I wouldn't use on it, you can use a StazOn ink, solvent style ink, but you can also use something like a Brilliance water-based ink as well, okay? The other types of oil-based pigment inks, your VersaFine Clairs, and just about any other type of pigment ink, they're oil-based, and those don't really dry on this emulsion coating very well. Okay, so we have that stamped out like that, and that's what it's going to look like. I don't want to touch this down because it's going to get on the back of this while this is still wet. Like I said, these dry pretty fast, though, so it's not too bad. Okay, so we have one layer of depth, and then I think let's try another layer of trees on this back side, but let's stamp it directly on the vellum like this, okay? This is a little bit of experiment. I'm not sure where to stamp these. I don't want it to go exactly right over the top of that, but well, maybe that would be overkill with 3 layers of trees on here. Let's go a little bit down here in the base. I can see that's still a little bit of wet. I caught a little bit of it right there, but that's not going to be any problem. You just have to kind of keep track of what is where. Okay, so this is going to be over here. Let's go like this. So in theory, this one's going to be a little bit closer to the surface here. So In theory, that's probably going to be a little bit darker than those ones are. I don't know. Well, we'll have to see. So it kind of looks like that right there. Okay. Remember, that's the back side. And then let's go for the front side. Let's change papers right here. Oh, there's our new Explorers right there. That's the name of a stamp. And let's see, this is going to go roughly about right here, okay? And we're going to stamp this one in black, okay? Let's go about roughly right there, I think. I'm just getting my bearings here. Okay, now on the front of the vellum right here, I think I'm going to go with the StazOn. Just, for quick drying and a nice dark application. Okay, and what I might do is I might blot off a little bit of this at the base so it looks like it's kind of in the clouds or mist, which is quite common for objects up at elevation, to kind of be set amidst the clouds, or fog at least. All right, so I think that was roughly about right here. It's about maybe a ½ inch up from the bottom, and it's like roughly kind of like a rule of thirds type of thing. If you divide this up, this is like on the third line or something. Right down the middle, I'm talking about, of the image. Okay, we have that right there. All right. So see, here's those other trees in the foreground. And then what we're going to do is we will use some additional trees. Maybe I'll go for these ones again, but I'll also use some of the, I think, spruce tree larch. A little bit of a stronger, solid area. And you often see a variety of types of trees, pine trees, etc., out in nature. So that you don't have to go with the same exact one all the time. You can mix even deciduous and evergreens if you want to. Okay, so that's what that looks like. And I think I'll frame off on this side. Going with this over here. Yeah, I'm going to be covering up some of the trees in the background, but that's how we create depth. Like that, and then let's go down here. It's kind of hard to see because this is like see-through. This is what we have right now. Okay. And it'll come up like this. You notice I'm kind of I'm staggering the height of these just so it doesn't look so repetitious, or repetitive, I should say. Okay. You don't want like a picket fence type of look, to your things where everything's kind of uniformly situated, kind of like a grove of, kind of planted trees. Okay. All right, so we have our foreground like that. Okay, that's what we have right here. Let's see if this is getting pretty close to being dry. I think it is. I think I can try it right now to just get our bearings here. We'll lay that down like that. And I think we have a pretty good looking scene. Let's see if we need anything else in here. I can go for other background trees or something like that in there if we want to. Um, let's get this up right here. I'm trying to decide if I want to go for some additional trees in the background. It looks like we can, possibly use them like that. When I use some spray adhesive and I merge these two together, the background will look a little bit darker because we'll have that little bit of moisture. I mean, it's not a lot of moisture, but it's that adhesive that kind of bonds things a little bit closer to one another. But I don't know. We can also go for some trees back there as well. I think that'd be kind of interesting. Let's do something here. I guess we can do this since I'm doing this pre-recorded. I can just pause. I'm gonna get my pine row, I think, and I think we'll add this into the mix. All right, we have our Pine Island right here. Well, let's use this one right here. Yeah, this will be fine. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on this side of the tree back here. Let's go for a little bit of variety here, though. Let's go for, let's see, let's go for some, I'm going to use, let's see, I'm stamping this on the back side of the vellum, so let's go for, I'm trying to think of what ink I want to stamp this out in. Let's go for some dye-based ink. Now, if this doesn't stamp out as dark as as the colors that I'm utilizing on there, that might be for the best. I don't know. Because I don't want it to be too dark. Okay, I'm mixing a little bit of that green and black onto this stamp right here. Then I'm gonna block it off a little bit. I'll block off the bottom of this stamp, especially. Or wipe it off, just so it looks like it's coming out of the clouds and the mist a little bit. Okay. So I thought that might be a little bit too dark, so I just blotted off right around the perimeter. I blotted off some, my pen was like really super juicy, so let's go like this back here. And let's see if we can get kind of a little bit of a lighter image. And remember, we're not going to be looking at it from this side because this is the back of the, the piece of paper, okay? So what we're going to be looking at, I think that came out pretty good. But this is what we're looking at, it's like right there. So see, that's what I just filled in right there. You can use a little bit more out here, maybe even. Okay, because this didn't stamp out, vellum doesn't, absorb the ink so fast. I'm just going to go for the second impression using the residual ink for after the first impression right over there. Okay. Now you can do this on the front side of a white piece of cardstock or something like that, and it'll look good too, but the vellum it brings that little added separation between this image and the background. Then if we just stamped all of this in these same colors on the front side of a white piece of cardstock. But you can do that though. That's what we'd be doing most of the time. This is just one of those little kind of special effect type of things that you can do to have fun with. A lot of you have vellum in your crafting kit anyway. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go outside and I'm going to put some spray adhesive over this. It's a spray adhesive. You can do these things where you sponge on like your glues or something like a diluted glue or something like that if you don't have a spray adhesive. But I'd really recommend a spray adhesive for anyone that's a card maker, when you're get into mass production or something like that, instead of, using your tape, runners and stuff like that to get a, complete contact from, card to mat or something like that. Okay, but I'll give this a light coating and we'll come back in and merge these two together. Okay, we've got a thin layer of spray sealant over this. You can see a little frosted kind of coating on there. Very even when you use the spray sealant. Okay, now on this one, just make sure that, you're using it, you're applying it right side up when whatever configuration you're doing. And just try to get it as close as possible. Okay, these are 4x6s right here, so it might be a little bit off, but what I end up doing is I end up trimming a little bit, I'm off by, I don't know, like a 32nd of an inch I can see. And we're going to take this now. I don't want to rub this because some of it might still be a little bit moist, and I'll just do a little cover. Put a piece of paper over the top of it and get any air bubbles out. You know, I don't really run into air bubbles when I'm using like a 4x6, but if you start getting up, you know, half page type of thing, it's really easy to pick up an air bubble or something like that. And sometimes your spray sealant doesn't go on like perfectly smooth, and you get a little splotchy areas. Then you know, it might show through a little bit in areas that'll look a little bit patterned. Okay, just go into it expecting that it looks, you know, to me, something like that doesn't really bother me. But, you know, if it's something unexpected, and sometimes people run into that type of thing, it bothers them, you know what I mean? But this is one of those techniques where, you know, it can run into air bubbles, especially when I've used like double layers. Sometimes I'll put another layer of vellum over it to try to create, you know, additional depth. You can see that right there. That almost looks like it's stamped on the front side. This right here is stamped on the back side of this card. So pretty fun. Okay, so let's see. Let's go in here and add in some additional tones in here. I don't know what this material represents, but this structuring right here is, you know, it could, you know, could be wood or something like that, but let's just say it's aluminum. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some additional coloring on here, like so. I'll add it into the windows. Okay. And a little bit of a shadow work with my black colored pencil. We don't have to do too much to this tower here. You know, there's a little bit of like a window areas right in there, and I'm just kind of putting a little bit of blue and black into it, like it's reflecting the clouds, you know, the colors of the clouds or something like that. And then I'm just varying that little rooftop there where it's a little bit lighter on this side and a little bit darker on that side. Okay. Now, let's go in here. I think this is dry now, you know, stays on dries pretty fast. And that's everything that's on the surface right here. But let's go back in here and add in some additional cloud forms. So we have clouds in the background, clouds in the foreground like that. Okay, and we're going to add this kind of right around the base of our objects in here to create a little bit of additional kind of atmosphere and separation. Remember these green trees right here? These are all on the back side of the vellum. All right, see this thing? I wanted to put a little bit of separation between us and those trees in the background, so I'm putting a little bit of extra fog in. I guess I could have stamped them out a little bit lighter too, but sometimes I'm not always sure, you know, if I don't use vellum for a while, it's like, how much of that, you know, showed through, you know, in a very, it's in this case, it almost looks like transparent. Okay, so we're adding this. And there's how it kind of adds in that nice atmospheric mist as well. And you put these trees like this into the clouds, you know, which would be, yeah, it looks good for, you know, like surface area stuff. But if this represents something that's up at, you know, whatever, 7,000, 8,000 feet, you know, you'd get all this, they call it, you know, when you go hiking, if you get kind of in a cloud, you know, goes in there, they call it like a whiteout. I've only been in it once before, but it's like the coolest thing. You don't want to get lost in it, but, you know, it is really cool to have, you know, to kind of be walking amongst a cloud like that. All right, see there like that? Pretty quick and easy. All right, now I thought what would be good was, Oh, there's a few different things, right? Quotes right here on this one. I thought this would be trees are your best antiques. I thought that would be perfect, perfect quote for this, because this fire lookout's kind of like looking out for. Or this one would be good too. The groves were God's first temples. So something like that in here. Either one of those would be great. Let's see what this look like right here. Sometimes I go for the kind of the shape of the quote too. And how it fits in with the space that I have remaining on the card. Okay, we're just going to use the StazOn again just for some very quick drying. Okay, let me get my bearings here and make sure I'm stamping it out reasonably straight. Go for a couple quick test impressions there. All right, and let's see if we can't get that straight on here. And don't like squash the quote stamps down when there's like delicate lettering on there, but decent impression quality, pressure. Trees are the best antiques. Now what I'm going to do is I'll, see this right here. I got that hanging off there a little bit, and this one's like this way a little bit. So I'll trim this off, and then we'll get this matted up, and I think that will make it for our card. So kind of minimal color. Like I said, this one would be really fantastic in a sunset type of scenario as well. So let's get this formatted and see what it looks like. All right, we're all formatted up. So there's quite a few layers here. What we're doing is we have the photograph that the vellum is adhered to, okay? And then we're taking that merging of the vellum and photograph, and then we're spray mounting that. I spray mounted it on to a piece of white cardstock, and then that I trimmed down, and then I mounted it on top of this dark glossy cardstock right here. All right, now so this is looking, it looks pretty good. But yeah, I think let's get a little bit of extra texture, something in here to give it a little bit more, I don't know, maybe some visual depth. So this is just your acrylic white paint pen, and I'm going to add some little highlights onto my tree limbs here, especially the ones in the foreground. I'll decide if I want to add some in the background as well. And this will give the trees a little bit more, kind of gives them a little bit of volume, depth, and certainly texture and variety of kind of lighting within. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer here. We went out of focus, pausing here. Okay, we're back. I can't zoom in too much. The software just can't take it, I don't think. Okay. So adding in this little bit of texture. I don't know if you can see it real well on the screen, but it's kind of pulling out the trees a little bit from the background. Like I said, it's creating a little bit more separation in a very crisp way. In the background, it's doing it in a very kind of soft way, with the white pigment ink. Okay. It just makes it a little bit more exciting, I think. The more textural range you have, the more value range that you have in a scene, different things like temperature, intensity, etc. It adds to the visual richness of a given composition. Let's try some of this on some of these background trees as well. It's not going to create as much contrast because they're lighter to begin with, but we'll see what they look like here. And let's see, let's bring out some the highlights on some of the structure here too, maybe. I don't know if this would show up or not. I guess it does a little bit. Kind of makes it gives a little sparkle, I guess. Not that this is like a, crystal, tower or something like that, but it makes it stand out just a touch, I think. With some little bit of highlights in the windows, maybe too. Would be kind of interesting. All right, so let's see if you can see it. Yeah, it's a little bit whiter in the window there, huh? You can kind of see that. And you see these little highlights here on the trees. Like that. All right, now let's do one more little touch in here. Let's put some birds up here. These are just the gulls. Now, in this case, they would represent birds closer to us than the tower itself because they're going to be that size, in here. You can put them wherever you want. I think right up here would be kind of cool. Tell you what, maybe I'll wipe off one of them. I'll just go with the smaller ones on here. Let's see. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so let's see if I can just ink up those three. I did that test stamp just because I wanted to make sure the ink was off the other two. I guess if you just wipe a little bit of stays-on ink off, it's pretty much dry because it just dries so fast. Okay, so we're going for 5 little birds here. It kind of adds to the, I don't know, the tranquility of a scene when you have little birds in there like that. You can even blot them off a little bit with some white pigment ink if you want to push them back in the distance a little bit. I don't think I'm going to do that, though. I think I'll just leave it like that. And there's your card right there. So pretty quick and easy card, but, using quite a bit of technique in terms of adding visual depth into your scene. You have the photo stamping, you have the vellum, and then you have the 3 different surfaces, the front and back of the vellum, and the photo to stamp on, in terms of kind of choosing what elements you want to look farther back in space when it comes to your cards like that. So instead of just working on one piece of paper like a white cardstock, where you can create depth, that's what I use most of the times, by stamping images lighter than the others, you can actually physically separate your objects with vellum. Like I said, a lot of you already have things like vellum, stays-on inks, and whatnot, so kind of a fun little technique to try out if you haven't done it already. All right, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you like these videos, hope you hit the like button and subscribe.